There seemed to be so many voices ringing in her ears that Patsy's head ached. She tried hard to open her eyes, but she couldn't.
"Stop it!"
she shouted, only with her mouth open, without a sound, and her throat was burning like a fire. At this time, a big hand picked up her head and fed a few saliva to her mouth, and she couldn't help but swallow it. It was put down again, and the quilt was covered under the nose. Next to it was the voice of two people. "Pacey has a really bad fever. It's been 2 days, and it hasn't healed yet. Let Dr. Foam come home and have a look." "Okay, I'll go now."
"Dad, Mom."
Patsy was a little confused, but she couldn't bring herself to think, so she had to fall asleep. I don't know how long I slept. I felt that someone wiped her sweat, someone gave her medicine, and then tied her ass for a while. She was finally able to open her eyes. Patsy stared at the roof in a daze. From a young age, every household was a thatched cottage, and only when he was 10 years old did he build a tile house. By the time she was 18, the family had cobbled together to build a 2-story building. As far as I could see was a wood-woven roof, not a high roof. There was not even an electric light. A kerosene lamp was lit on the table. At this time, Patsy vaguely remembered that the village was only electrified when she was 7 years old. Patsy sat slowly up in bed, looking at the childhood home that had long been blurred in her memory. Apart from the kitchen and toilet, there are only 3 main rooms in the house. One of them is equivalent to the living room, with a long 8-fairy table and several chairs. In the East house lived Mom and Dad, and my sister was not yet 2 years old, and was still sleeping with them. And she lives in this Westing house with her brother, Peggy's brother, Jenny. 2 beds were removed from the small room, leaving little space. There is a crooked small table near the door, where my brother does his homework. Patsy slept on the cot by the window and heard the children laughing outside. After a while, Brother Peggy burst in, shouting, "Peggy, you're awake." Looking at the reduced version of Peggy in front of him, a cotton undershirt, a pair of cloth trousers, and cloth shoes with 2 small holes on their feet. His face was covered with mud marks on the left and right, his hair was short, and there was a little snot under his nose. He wiped it with his sleeve head carelessly. As a result, it was not wiped clean, and some snot was wiped on the face. DeBeo. This is the name of the eldest brother when he was young. After he was an adult, these names gradually stopped shouting. Her name was Patsy until she was 15 or 16. "I'm so hungry, Mom." Patsy is awake and hungry. DeBeo is only 9 years old, 3 years older than Pesci, and is now in 1st grade. "It's summer vacation now. I've been playing crazy for half a day. I'm hungry, but my sister is sick, my family is busy, and no one wants to eat." At this time, I saw my sister wake up and was very happy, thinking that I could finally eat. Seeing DeBeo out, Patsy tried to get up and put on much smaller cloth shoes, feeling much better. Even my head is a little dizzy and my stomach is growling with hunger. Patsy remembered that she had been in good health when she was a child, not always sick like her brother Xiao Bao. The only serious one was when I was 6 years old and had a high fever, which took me 3 days to recover. She was actually 6 years old again. There is only one full-length mirror at home, and she can't see herself now. Stretched out his hand and looked at it, his thin little hand looking at his legs, his 2 thin legs like bamboo poles. The clothes on my body are a little big. My coat is dragged to my thigh, and my trousers are rolled up. This should be the clothes of my uncle's cousin Mary. Just as Patsy was checking herself out, Mother Madeline came in. Madeline saw Patsy standing by the bed and pulled her over. "Patsy, are you better?" Patsy looked at her young mother, feeling as if in a dream for a moment, and casually replied, "Better, Mom." At this time, Madeline was in her early 30s, and although she was a rural woman, she was quite attractive. It's very different from the wrinkles on your face in your 50s. "Go to dinner." Madeline took Patsy, who did not know where her soul had flown, to dinner. When we got to the kitchen, the light was still lit, and the small table was already full of family members. My father, Zhou Guiqiang, is only 34 years old, and he is in his prime of life. DeBeo was impatient with hunger and had already secretly stuffed a mouthful of cake into his mouth. My younger brother Xiao Bao is only 1 year younger than himself. He is 5 years old this year. He is frail and sickly. He is relatively short. My sister's name started as Zhou Xiaoya, but at this time, she must be called the second girl. Remembering these vulgar nicknamed by her brother and sister, Patsy secretly laughed in her heart. It was hard for her father, who graduated from primary school, to come up with any nice names. Brother's famous Peggy was named by his deceased grandfather. There are no dishes for dinner. A few pickles, a few baked cakes, and a big pot of corn porridge are the family's dinner. Patsy peeked at DeBeo. He could eat a piece and a half of these pancakes at a time. He always had a good appetite and ate everything. Xiao Bao ate half a bowl of porridge and stopped eating a few cakes. Tuya just weaned soon. The words are not clear. The rice bowl is obviously not porridge, but a poached egg plus some noodles. Patsy didn't get used to this kind of dinner either. She reluctantly ate a few mouthfuls, drank some porridge, and stopped her stomach growling. At the dinner table, DeBeo's laughter, Xiao Bao's shouting, Aria's crying, Mike's yelling, and Zhou's mother's persuasion were like symphonies. The feeling that I haven't experienced for many years is spreading to Patsy's body, the family whose blood is thicker than water. At this moment, the dim lights and low rooms could not resist the warmth. After lying in bed honestly for a few days, I was almost in good health. Patsy finally got her parents' permission to get out of bed and jump up in excitement. The clothes that are too big are washed clean, but they are a little ugly. However, every child in this family is like this, so I don't care about him. The first thing Percy did was to run to the East Room to take a picture of the full-size mirror. This mirror, however, has some background, or Madeline's wedding dowry, set in the wardrobe, can reflect the whole body. Patsy looked at herself in the mirror as she remembered it. Not to mention how beautiful, but born with white skin, double eyelids, big eyes although thin, but the head is not short, taller than girls of the same age. She remembered that she was 1.7 meters tall in adulthood, and she was outstanding in girls, but she was thin but not plump. There is also the withered and yellow hair at this end. Madeline thinks it is troublesome to tie the hair for children, so she and her sister have short hair like tomboys since childhood. When Patsy grew up, she envied other girls everywhere for their long hair. That one was greedy. Hey, now that I have started my life again, I naturally want to live a different life. To make up for all her regrets, it is decided that from today on, she will start to grow her hair and march towards a beautiful girl with long hair and fluttering temperament. After setting a small goal for herself, Patsy took Xiao Bao out to play. Tuya make also want to follow can't, another follower. At that time, each house was small, but the yard was large, and there was a large open space in front of each house. Children in various schools seldom go to school when they are less than 8 years old, and very few go to kindergarten. Most of them go to grade 1 directly. Primary schools basically adopt the teaching mode of herding cattle and grazing grass. After school, all the children are running around playing, so they can find a bunch of children to play together at any time. There was a large open space between Patsy's and Uncle's homes, and a few big trees were planted on the edge, which covered a lot of sun. The middle of the open space has long been occupied by naughty children. DeBeo was playing a game of glass marbles with several boys of the same age. The round glass ball with the big little finger is the boys' favorite. Several of them get together, lie prone on the ground, and bounce the small ball into a small hole with the size of the thumb a few meters away. The boy who bounced into the hole was like a hero with a broken crown at that moment, proudly taking away his booty in the envious and jealous eyes of his partner. There is also another way to play. 2 people each play a glass ball, to use their own one to hit the opponent's ball. Who plays first can win the opponent's glass ball. This was seen by the boys as the ultimate duel. Cousin Mary is also there. She and several girls are jumping rubber bands. 2 of them were holding long elastic rubber bands with their legs, while the others were dancing while reading ballad-like pithy formulas. The smaller ones who haven't gone to school are scattered in 2 piles, either watching or making trouble. Most of them are the younger brothers and sisters of the children who are playing hard. The adults told the older ones to take the younger ones out to play. The older brothers and sisters who were playing had already been thrown aside. Patsy followed Xiao Bao area and looked closely at her younger brother and sister. She did not dare to leave them alone. When I was a child, I refused to take my younger siblings, but I was beaten a lot. Now I have to be clever and can't take this loss. It's just watching the children. They just follow them wherever they go. In less than a moment, Patsy found it a complete chore. Xiao Bao is 1 year younger than himself, and it is easy to play behind a bao with several 4- or 5-year-old boys, but Arya, a little kid who can just walk and can't speak clearly, can give her a headache. For the 5th time, Percy picked up the second girl who had fallen to the ground and cried loudly, shaking her head and sighing, "What an annoying child." Since childhood, my sister has always been in trouble. She has been following her sister to clean up the mess. She has to take her to play when she is young and teach her to do her homework when she is older. Larger, start washing her clothes, socks, and shoes. After junior high school, Zhou Xiaoya, who began to develop, attracted many boys, and she had to escort her to take out and cover in front of her parents. What a worry-free aunt, Patsy murmured in a low voice, wiping the tears from Arya's face. Coax for a while, see Tuya still cry more intense, also didn't stop. Patsy surrendered completely. She was not so tired of taking her daughter Julie. Julie has been a quiet and well-behaved child since she was a child, rarely crying, and Patsy has always felt lucky to have such a child. But when I was 6 years old, what about Julie? What's going to happen to her? Will Jessie take good care of her? Furthermore, if you don't live with Jessie, will there be Julie? At the thought of this, Patsy was confused. What a mess! But at the thought of Julie, the reborn Patsy could no longer control her miss and burst into tears. Julie has followed her since she was a child. Now that she is gone, what should Julie do? Will Jessie take care of her? Julie likes to kick the quilt when she goes to bed at night. Will Jessie remember to tuck her in? Julie loves fish. Will Jessie cook it for her? Julie goes to kindergarten every day. Will Jessie pick her up on time? Julie is her daughter. Will Jessie find another woman to be her stepmother? On top of that, Patsy is dead and 6 years old again. What about Julie? Will there be no more Julie in the world? The thought of this made Patsy feel like a knife in her heart. Tears fell, remembering that he was only a 6-year-old child now. He simply burst into tears. The clever Xiao Bao had already run to report to the parents. Madeline was busy feeding chickens, ducks, and 2 pigs in a yard. Hearing that Patsy was crying, she rushed over to see. Madeline began to feel distressed when she saw Arya standing there with snot and tears all over her face. She couldn't help blaming Patsy for not bringing her sister. "Patsy, how did you bring your sister?" "I'm not too embarrassed to cry. I'm not allowed to cry." Picked up Tuya coaxed up. If it weren't for looking at Patsy's body, just a slap hit the body. Percy realized the meaning of warning from her mother's eyes, and she sighed with emotion at the difference in treatment between herself and her sister, but she did not dare to cry any more. Packed up thinking about Julie's mood, and Madeline went home. After returning home, she was unexpectedly scolded by Madeline and ordered to feed chickens and ducks. Patsy glanced at the Tuya held in Madeline's arms with hatred and felt that she had brought at least half of the darkness of her childhood. Arya, who was still young, did not know what was going on in her sister's mind. She lay contentedly in Madeline's arms and giggled. Madeline was very distressed about the youngest child, coaxing like a baby. Free-range chickens and ducks have been locked up in simple sheds. People live in straw houses, and there is nothing to pay attention to in sheds. Is the low thatched hut. There are more than a dozen chickens in one room, more than 20 ducks in one room, and 2 fat pigs in the largest one. The eggs laid by these chickens and ducks were taken to the market to sell some money for the family's daily necessities. The annual crop of pigs is an important source of income for the family. Therefore, in the Zhou family, feeding these animals has always been more important than feeding the children. Patsy naturally knew how important it was to feed the chickens and ducks, and scattered the chicken food prepared by Madeline into the shed. A dozen hens swarmed up and grabbed the chicken food made of corn flour and grass with some wheat kernels. Since the family's petty expenses mainly depend on these dozen hens, Madeline is willing to feed the chickens well in order to let them lay more eggs. In addition to catching insects and pecking stones in front of and behind the house every day, They are regularly fed 3 times a day in the morning, middle, and evening, which is more punctual than that of the Pesci brothers and sisters. The number of ducks in the family has been raised from more than 40 to 20 now. Ducks are not as expensive as chicken essence because duck eggs smell of earth and are bought by fewer people and cheaper, so they are fed worse. Only feed once a day and then rush to the nearby pond for stocking. And putting ducks from childhood to adulthood is Patsy's job. DeBeo accompanied her to the pond at most and slipped away without a trace. Xiaobao's health was not very good and his wife was too small, so this important task fell on Patsy. After feeding the chickens, without waiting for Madeline to speak, Patsy automatically and consciously took the long bamboo pole to drive the ducks out of the ring door. For a time, the duck flying, duck jumping, duck calling, duck noise, bustling. Madeline looked at Patsy with admiration, thinking that she was finally sensible and would have to train Patsy to do housework in the future. If Patsy knew what Madeline was thinking, she would vomit blood in anger. Now she is walking towards the old pond with nostalgia. In front of a bunch of lively ducks, pace leisurely behind, occasionally ducks running around, with a bamboo pole to catch a natural move forward. Fortunately, ducks are used to stalking, and they're somewhat familiar with the smell, not a heavy job. It took about 8 or 9 minutes to reach the pond at the west end of the village. The ducks didn't have to rush. They automatically fluttered crookedly into the water and put their heads into the water to look for small fish and shrimps. This pond is very large, probably covering several acres. There are many small fish and shrimps in the pond, and occasionally some people have caught more than 1.50 kilograms fish from the pond. There are a lot of people who have been putting ducks in this pond for a long time. Surrounded by a large area of woods, Patsy still remembers playing in the woods most loved since childhood. There are many unknown wild fruits in the woods that make greedy children linger. Naughty and bold boys like to climb trees to dig out birds' eggs, hit birds with homemade slingshots, and occasionally lay a little sparrow can make children ecstatic. They have a good meal and become heroes in the eyes of other children. In the distance is a crop field. At this time, the rice is grown high and dense. When the wind blows, it undulates like waves. Looking at the clear water, the green water plants, the unknown wildflowers of red and blue, the clear sky, and the verdant bushes, Patsy couldn't help feeling, what a beautiful age, without pollution. More than 20 years later, it has long been replaced by a factory building, and the green pond has been filled without a trace. Accustomed to living in the bad environment where the air is full of car exhaust and the ground is full of domestic garbage, she can't see flowers and plants and only small trees with the thickness of her fingers. Pesci was moved to feel like she was in heaven. Patsy sat by the pond, enjoying the free hand and comfort she had never felt in her life. She spent the first half of her life taking her children to cook, wash dishes, mop the floor, and wash clothes to work. How long has it been since she sat down and rested so well? At this moment, no toil life, no heavy burden, only her own. Now that this is the case, she decides to stop thinking about what she can't do. I'm sorry, Julie, Mom didn't mean to leave you. Mom doesn't mean to forget you either. Mother Heart will never forget you, will never not love you, do not want you. It's just that tears all day don't help the reality, and regret all day can't change the fact of rebirth. People can't always live in self-hatred and self-sorrow. People can't just live in memories and pain, no matter how they have to face the current life. I don't know why I have a chance to live again after a car accident, so let myself face a new life bravely. Patsy secretly vowed to herself to live a different, wonderful life, don't repeat the old mistakes. And the new life, from 2 months after the start of the new semester, she has to go to school ahead of time. Her former self took her younger siblings to put ducks at home until she was 8 years old. If she could advance 2 years, she would be able to catch up with the good years when there was a job assignment. After careful analysis, the first thing she has to solve is her parents. Only with their permission can she take the first step in a better life. It is decided that I will bring up the matter of going to school when I go home today. No matter how my parents oppose it, I must try my best to achieve my wish. As expected, Patsy's proposal met with unanimous opposition from her parents. What did you say? Mike couldn't believe it. He couldn't think of his eldest daughter, who had always been quiet and reserved and didn't say anything, saying that she wanted to go to school. In his opinion, Pacey, though taller, was still a 6-year-old child. DeBeo is 9 years old and in the first grade, and those who don't know whether to study or not never know how to study hard. Patsy said it again smoothly. School starts in more than a month. I want to go to school. Mike thought there was something different about Patsy today, sitting upright at the big table and talking like a little adult. Cannot help but my family has a woman first grow up, joy and pride. However, this mood did not affect his decision. You are only 6 years old. What do you know about reading? Take Xiao Bao and area with you at home. If you have nothing to do, you can also help your mother put ducks, whose children don't go to school until they are 8 or 9 years old. There is also a point that has not been said. Tuition fees are also a big burden. At that time, the tuition fee was about 10 yuan a semester, which was no more than 3 or 4 yuan for him to kill a pig outside, and the eggs gathered at home for a week were only more than 2 yuan. Madeline also chimed in. Yes, wait 2 years, Patsy. Madeline's consideration was similar to Mike's. In addition, the traditional patriarchal thinking in the countryside also made her never pay attention to her daughter's education. In her opinion, her daughter will do housework more diligently, take her younger brother and sister, and when she grows up, she will do some hand knitting and read more or less books. In those years, schools are more advanced places for children to play. Parents and even school teachers don't take school seriously. Patsy was not at all surprised to hear such words, for she had grown up hearing them. What kind of, just don't repeat a grade, don't do your homework at home, and take your sister out to play, don't go to school tomorrow at home to collect wheat, and so on. It is this kind of environment, this kind of attitude, and this kind of education that make the smarter Pacey's grades have been mediocre, and after graduating from junior high school, she ended her school career and entered the society early. If she hadn't entered the factory to work early, how could she have fallen in love, married, and had a daughter early? Patsy attributes her failed life to the point that one step wrong in childhood leads to all the later steps wrong. Now she wants to lead her life into a broad road. Dad, I really want to go to school. I stay at home every day and put ducks. I have long learned to count. You see, 1, 2, 3. Patsy had counted to 23. Not bad. Mike's eyes lit up, and a 6-year-old could count. DeBeo didn't count her smoothly. My daughter in Zhouguoqiang is smart, just like when I was a child. I bragged about myself and recalled that I was a smart child when I was a child. Madeline is in charge of the little things in Patsy's house, but the real key big thing is Mike's decision. Patsy naturally knows who to work on. Patsy recited 2 more Tang poems, namely the famous Goose, Goose, and 1 to 2 or 3 miles. She was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth and praised her daughter's intelligence. She didn't let her daughter's idea of going to school waver. She thought that the child seemed smart and wanted to go to school, so she simply let her read it. Madeline felt very strange. Patsy wandered around in front of her all day and never saw her reciting poems. Patsy, when did you learn poetry? How come I never saw you learn it? Patsy had already thought it over and explained. I listened to it twice when my brother was at home. DeBeo, who was named, did not know how his sister was going to school again, and his face was blank. In my heart, I was thinking back to when I memorized these 2 poems at home, as if I didn't memorize them very well now. I will not. Percy looked at him quickly, with a lot of meaning in her eyes. At this time, DeBeo's mind also brightened, and he felt that he could not tear down his sister's platform. Otherwise, he would not have had such a good time in the future. It's not a good idea to follow 3 followers wherever you go. He can't stand it if he can't leave ducks for 2 hours. As for how DeBeo thought of this, it was due to Pace's warning eyes. DeBeo didn't quite understand what warnings and threats were at this time, but his intuition made him choose to help his sister around the field. Maybe I used to recite it at home and was heard by Pace. God knows when he took it back. Mike touched his chin and thought for a moment, then hesitated and said, Dad, I promised to come home from school every day to help my mother take Xiao Bao and area, and put ducks on Saturdays and Sundays when I am free. You let me start school and go to the first grade. Patsy raised her right hand and swore like a Boy Scout, not knowing how ridiculous it was for her 6-year-old to make such a move. Madeline laughed with a snort. This dead girl, she learned one set at a time, his father, or she would be like a child. After all, it is a mother's soft-hearted heart. Think about Percy, who has always been honest and unkind. DeBeo in the family is naughty and naughty. Xiao Bao is weak and difficult to take care of. Percy is the only one who is most relieved and never bothers any gods. The relative attention to her is also the least. Now think of Madeline, heart a little guilty. No way, there are many children. She had to do all the housework and chores for pigs in the chicken and duck pens with more than 10 mu of land in her family. Mike sometimes went to kill pigs for the pig families in 4 townships and 8 villages, so he couldn't take care of his family when he was busy. Madeline was busy from morning till night and had so much free time with her children. Patsy was overjoyed at Madeline's words and threw herself on Madeline. Mother, you are so kind. You are the best mother in the world. Aria couldn't understand what her sister was talking about. She said milkily, Good mother, good mother. At this point, Mike also laughed and agreed, thinking that there would be more than a month to start school. Running more and killing more pigs would not make it possible to sell the family's food and always earn the tuition fees of DeBeo and Pesci. Patsy grinned from ear to ear, and DeBeo laughed and screamed. For a moment, there was a deafening sound of laughter in the hut of the Zhou family. The weather got hotter and hotter and entered the cool summer. DeBeo was in the summer vacation and there was no summer homework at that time. He was naked and wearing underpants every day and played wildly with several boys of about the same age in the village. He disappeared after digging a few mouthfuls of rice at dawn in the morning. Stay home for lunch at noon, and then it will be dark to see the figure. Madeline couldn't control him and simply followed him, thinking about whose half-boy was not this virtue. Also, don't expect DeBeo to do something for himself, but order to take Xiao Bao out to play. DeBeo was unwilling and did not dare to disobey his mother's orders, so he had to take a follower out. However, 5 times out of 10, Xiao Bao came home by himself and said with grievance that his brother only cared about playing with himself and ignored him. Madeline had no choice but to let Patsy take Xiao Bao. Patsy cleverly agreed, and she had been doing very well with her parents lately, knowing that her father had been out and about every day looking for business to earn her tuition. However, there are very few people who kill pigs at this time of year. In summer, meat is easy to break down. Everyone waits until the winter to fatten up the pigs before slaughtering them. Unless you meet the family married daughter-in-law, old man died, or something like that, you are willing to slaughter the pig that has not been fat for more than half a year. So Mike didn't get much, and he didn't look good when he came home. On a hot day, wandering around all day is often home for nothing, getting more and more upset. Patsy had a great look, and before Mike could sit down, a towel stained with cold water had been handed over to Mike to wipe off the summer heat. Just after wiping the sweat, a cup of cold plain boiled water was handed to Mike's mouth. Mike's full belly anger had already dissipated by more than half. When a cup of cold tea was served, his full unhappiness disappeared. He was in high spirits and counted which side to turn around the next day. Mike secretly said to Madeline, her mother, you see how sensible Patsy is. I think Mary is not as good as her. Monli is the same age as DeBeo and is the eldest daughter of his eldest brother Zhou Guofu's family. Madeline nodded in agreement, but did not doubt that her daughter was any different from before. Just thinking that her daughter is not short, she looks like 7 or 8 years old when she speaks and does things well. Maybe the child grew up and began to understand, and besides, girls were absorbed earlier than boys. DeBeo is 9 years old, still doesn't know what to look like, and Percy looks like his sister. The husband and wife talked and laughed for a while, and unanimously came to the conclusion that Patsy is a sensible and good child. Don't worry too much about her. You must take good care of the other children, especially DeBeo. Patsy naturally did not know what her parents were thinking. She would never have thought that her good performance would make her parents pay less attention to her and regret not falling when she would come over later. Now she is immersed in the joy of going to school. After breakfast every day, she takes her brother Xiao Bao to put ducks in without waiting for Madeline's instructions. She also specially brought DeBeo's first-grade textbooks to the pond. When the duck entered the pond, she put the bamboo pole aside and found a shady place with sunshine on her back so that Xiao Bao could play around. I picked up the textbook I hadn't touched for a long time and started looking. Fortunately, there were several children who put ducks. Xiao Bao soon found a partner. He was a boy named Xiao Shi from Lu's family in the same village. He had a great time playing. The textbook has long been used by DeBeo in tatters. Xiao Mao and puppies draw everywhere. I can't see that DeBeo has some talent for drawing well. Percy had a flash of thought in her mind. Why not guide her brother's hobbies to the top and let him have a certain temperament? My former brother went to school for 3 days and fishes for 2 days. He loved fighting and playing truant. He reluctantly refused to go to school until the second day of the junior high school. When I grew up, I was fooling around with 3 friends and 4 friends. It was only at 26 that I found an old girl from a neighboring town and married her. After marriage, it was common for the two to fight and quarrel, which made the family restless. DeBeo now has the sign. While he was a child, he can still collect his personality, and it will be too late in a few years. However, this has to be done slowly and planned. Having made up her mind, Patsy focused her attention on the textbook. A math textbook is nothing more than knowing numbers and simple addition and subtraction, which naturally cannot defeat oneself. However, the Chinese pinyin in the Chinese textbook has not been touched for many years, and some are unfamiliar. She read softly, thinking that she would put the book before school started anyway. Take a good look at the whole thing. My former life was only a medium-sized student and seldom received praise from the teacher. Now I have to study hard and get high marks every time to satisfy my vanity. Paisy, Paisy. She was slapped heavily behind her. Looking back, it was Cousin Mary. What are you looking? I called you several times, and you didn't hear me. Mary is also 9 years old, 2 months older than DeBeo, in the same class. Mary is half a head taller than Pesci. She is wearing a cotton floral skirt, 2 cornucopia on her head, and a pair of new sandals on her feet. She looks handsome and lovely. Patsy looked at her old short-sleeved undershirt and shorts and some small sandals and felt a little inferior. Uncle will carpenter craftsmanship often make furniture for people and occasionally make some ready-made furniture to sell. His family circumstances are much better than his own. In addition to Mary, there is a 7-year-old boy named Heisey Zhou Zhihai. Patsy grew up picking up her old clothes and shoes after Mary. She didn't have the right to buy new clothes until she was 14 years old and taller than her cousin. Patsy showed Mary the book in her hand. I'm reading DeBeo's textbook. I'm going to the 1st grade at the beginning of school. My parents have promised me. Really? Mary came to be interested and found a slightly clean place to sit down carefully. You are 3 years younger than me and 1 year younger than my brother Heisey. He doesn't want to go to school. My father God also told him to go to the 1st grade. He refused to go at home for a long time and had to say that he would go again in the next year. My dad couldn't help but follow him. How do you miss books? It's much more fun to play at home for 2 more years. School is the most boring thing. Mary pouted, feeling something incredible.